All right. So most of you guys know me. We're not really sponsored, but these are my two companies that I do own. So obviously I can put both. Our investment team is where we do our flips, where we do our buying and selling of homes. We put it through like my real estate company, but they're the buyers. We also do, sorry, I forgot the music was on. We do TC work, we do training, we do mentoring, a whole bunch of stuff for you guys to check out. And if you ever want to use any of our services, that is the QR code is our link. So you can go to our pages and see what we're about. So this is who I am. I'm a licensed broker. I own Emajin Realty. I also am owner of the Emajin Investments. I'm an investor. I've sat on the Orlando Realtors Association broker panel for creative financing. I've been in property management since 2015, and I fix and flip and I wholesale. I can do all of it. I've done all of it. My favorite thing to do is to actually structure creative deals. So if you get stuck, like, call me. Carlos and I worked on one for 2 hours last night. When we do these kinds of things, it is, it's a long drag out process until you learn what you're doing, right? That's with everything. So what I am not, I'm giving you guys the disclosures today. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a home inspector, a tire kicker, a mind reader, or a fortune teller. I wish I was a fortune teller or a mind reader. Not sure I might want to read everyone's mind, but I'm giving you guys this disclosure up front because I don't want you to think every transaction is as easy as I'm about to make it look, right? You will never have a transaction go the same way twice. Never. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. Never seen the same transaction twice. So, as you guys are somewhat familiar, I've basically built this presentation around people that are just getting into creative finance or really learning how to hone their skills in. So some of this is repeat information for you guys, but some of it is going to be new. So we have the types of creative finance, seller finance, which is probably the easiest of all of them. You got subject to, wholesale, hybrid, we've got novations and things like that as well. But these are really the four that I focus on specifically. So I'm going to go through how to underwrite a property, strategies with these properties, and then how to dispo them. You'll hear it called disposition, dispose of, get rid of. So that's the end. If you are getting properties under contract, that's called acquisitions. And that's just saying we're acquiring the properties in. Terms that you're going to need to know are after repair value, the terms, subject to, and holding costs. So underwriting is super important because we're basically looking to see if a property is going to make us money or make us lose money. And we don't want to lose money ever. So what we're going to do is we are going to do single families today. We're going to underwrite single family. The first thing you need to do when starting your underwriting is identify the property, right? We want to find the property. We got to work on one at a time. We need to pull comps. And when I say comps, I mean actual comparables that are within one bedroom, 250 square feet plus or minus one bathroom, and within about 3,000 square foot lot size for these homes that are under you know, a half acre. You're going to also want to make sure that you look at what these things are made out of. What are the homes made out of? We need to see, okay, when we look at a comp, we're not going to take the top tier comp if the house is in shambles, right? Because we know that we need to get money off to get back up to where the full value is going to be. And that's where the ARV comes in. So we want to know current price and what it can be. After you have found your comps, you're going to identify rehab costs. This means you might need to go into the home, take pictures, walk it, take a video, bring a GC with you if you need it. In the beginning, do not go alone and try and decide what you need to do in the house. Like we say, JV with someone to make sure that you're walking through with someone who knows what they're looking for. They've done flips before. They know, okay, your biggest costs are going to be your roof, your systems, your plumbing, your electrical. Like, don't go in blind, whatever you do. And just because you can't see it with your eyes doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist, right? You open up a wall and you've opened up Pandora's box. I've done that on more than one flip. You're told, seller did everything. Our last flip, our seller did electric, he redid plumbing, blah, blah, blah. Can you believe he lied? He didn't do any of that. Shocking. So never trust the seller either. Once you have all these details and you identify how much this rehab is going to cost, know that your rehab costs will never be the same at the end. Never. You need to gather all the pieces that you put together, right? All these pieces that we've researched, and we need to put, go lay down, please. We need to go put them in the deal calculators. We need to put them into the process that I'm about to teach you guys. And then last but not least, you choose your exit strategy. Are you going to keep this? Are you going to flip it and turn it into a rental? What is your strategy? So in your beginnings, this is kind of what I was talking about. You guys are going to want to screenshot this. This is very much what you look for. I do professional BPOs, broker price opinions. I go out into the current market and I go walk through these houses, and then I have to basically do a baby appraisal on them. I stick with doing them because it keeps me you know, fresh and with the times of what's going on in our market. The BPOs also allow me to find people that are in pre-foreclosure and help them. So if you are a broker or a licensed realtor and you want to get into doing that, let me know. But I do work for the banks. So when we're looking at a house, we're going to look at the basic parts of the home, right? These are what you're going to use in your analysis and to compare to another one. So style of home, you have your single families, your townhomes, condos. Condos and townhomes are not the same. And then you might have your multi-families, your mixed use, any of those. The composition of the house is huge here in Central Florida, in Florida in general, because we have so many different types of materials of homes, right? Where I grew up, you either had a wood frame home or you had a manufactured home. There was no in between. So in Florida, where you guys have block homes, that makes it even more superior to the wood and the manufactured in Florida due to our weather and such. So you only want to compare a block home to a block home, a wood home to a wood home, etc. When you're comparing the size of the home, you want to do, like it says here, plus or minus heated only. So when you look at the tax record and you're like, okay, it says we have living square feet and total square feet. Your living square feet are exactly what it sounds like. Places that you can live in the home, things that are under air conditioning. So your garage is not under air, so it's not considered living space. If you convert it legally with permits, yes, then it can be a living space, but it would count more towards the total. When we have the stories of the home, again, don't compare a 1-story to a 2-story because they are very different. They'll suit different people's needs. Say you have an elderly person, they want to make sure that their homes are on the first floor. They don't want to climb stairs. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind as well. And then we have the age of the home. Super important. We don't want to put brand new construction against a 1950s home. It just doesn't make sense, and it will never come. So only go within 10 years. Truly, if you are within the 5-year range, you're even closer. If you have a new build, you can only go within 1 year. Same with, you bought a house in 2022, you can only do a 2023 or 2021. Very weird, but that's how they do it. Your lot size. Make sure that you're not putting an acre against a half acre. It just doesn't work out that way. So inside the homes, again, take another screenshot of this one, because if I've seen so many people send me terrible comps, and I'm going to say it right now, if you comp your property and you send it to me and it's completely off, I'm not even going to look at your deal. So comping is everything. I once got a 1-1 sent to me, which is fine, no big deal. And she compared it against a 3-2. A 3-2 is not the same clientele as a 1-1. A 3-2 probably has families in it and more than one person or two people. When you have the 3, or, you know, you've got the families. When you have the 1-bedroom, it's probably a couple starting out. It's probably, you know, the person that wants to live alone, whatever it may be, but it's a completely different spectrum. So you definitely don't want to do that. So only go within 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom for a comp. Your garage. A garage is not the same thing as a carport. But you do want to compare if you can. We ran into a spot where we had a carport on one of our flips and all the other comps had nothing. So it didn't even help us to have a carport, even though it was there to begin with. So just try and do apples to apples. Pool or no pool. If you cannot find any comps that, you know, don't have a pool, or they all have a pool and your subject doesn't, it's only worth about $10,000 to $15,000 at max on the retail side of it. You spend $50,000 or more to put it in. You have to only get about 10 or 15,000 back on that return. It's a terrible investment if you have to put that pool in. I would never put a pool into a flip home, not ever, because it's, again, not worth the price. If we have a house that's like a mansion and we've got the budget, maybe, but probably not. So the homes that have, we're going to move on to condition. We have different grades that are set up by how the appraisals look. It's basically saying, okay, your different grades are the level that you've updated the home. So you have like contractor grade, you know, we have below contractor grade for people that aren't taking care of their homes, total disrepair. And then on the flip side, we have somewhat updated in the last 10 years and fully renovated. So those are what you'll see Q as the, on an appraisal, you say Q6. That means it's quality grade 6. So it might be the highest. Locations. Locations are really, really important. Again, screenshot this one as well. Stay in the neighborhood within a mile. Maximum of 2.5 miles. Do not cross over major streets or highways. and do not cross bodies of water. These are ones that you're going to want to make sure that, you know, I know here in like Sanford, I'll give you an example. I-4 is a huge separator in Sanford. On the right side, you have the actual city of Sanford. You have homes that have been here since early 1900s. On the left side of I-4, you have what's called West Sanford, which is where I live. And you have Heathrow, you have Lake Forest. These are all homes that have been built from like 1970 and up, right? So they're different sides and they bring different pieces to the puzzle. You know what I mean? So you're definitely not going to compare a historic home that's in downtown to something that's over on my side, which is 20 years newer and on a completely different side of the city. I'm sure you guys can think of Orlando. If you said, oh, it's in Orlando, it's fine. Orlando's freaking huge, man. Like, it could be anywhere. It takes you 3 hours to get from one side of Orlando to the other, I swear to God. And you know that Pine Hills is not the same as like Lake Nona area, right? So they'll still call it Orlando, but it's not. So that brings us to the sold date. Try and keep your sold date under 6 months. If you have to go out to a year because there's just no comps, that's okay. But just don't go past that. You want to make sure that you have at least three of the properties to compare against. And that means closed, sold, all those things, not just active, pending, because you can put a house out for any amount you want, right? You could say, I want 700,000 for a 2-2. Okay, well, drugs are fun, but no, it's not going to work. When we are in, you know, these other areas that will only sell a 2-2 for 250,000, but it's active. So she can say, or he can say whatever they want as far as being within the comparables. So again, don't use pending and active as your comparables. You can use them as a guiding factor, but with a grain of salt. Restrictions and HOAs. Again, these are ones that you're going to want to make sure you're paying attention to. An age-restricted development is not the same as an HOA, is not the same as a condo, is not the same as just being a gated community. Just because you're in an HOA doesn't mean you're gated. Just because you're gated doesn't mean that you have public roads. Most times, if an HOA has a gate, anything beyond the gate is owned by the HOA. And that means you're going to be nailed with assessments to take care of those roads because they're private roads. That means your HOA is probably a little higher too, because you have to make sure that you're accounting for all of it. HOAs, again, you want to see what their amenities are. You do not want to put you don't want to put someone who has all the amenities, they get their lawn mowed, they get cable included, against someone who gets fountains. I say that because I only get fountains and pay $80 a month and I'm a little butthurt about it. But these people that have bigger communities, they pay, you know, $150 a month and they get cable and internet and pools and stuff. Awesome. So their comp is not the same as my comp when it comes to the HOA. And some HOAs look like garbage and they're managed by the state. Again, I would probably compare that to a non-HOA because no one's taking care of it, but that's pretty deep into it. All right, so we're looking at your purchase comps. These are all fake numbers and these are all fake homes. Everything I'm giving you today is baseline, right? We're not adding in all the crazy curveballs yet because I want you guys to understand how to do it. Hold on one second. Let me get my child. Benjamin. Okay, sorry. So we're going to pretend that these are our purchase price comps. So sold price, sold price, sold price. You can see they're generally within the same ballpark, right? We don't have a 400,000, a 300,000, because that wouldn't be a true comp because there's something missing, right? Or something that they have that someone else didn't have. So we're going to base it off of this and just say, okay, these are the comps that we're going to use. And we're going to put their ARV comps at 450, 435, 445. So we just learned two things. When we have the comps for prior, this is prior to rehab. This is everyone else that looks like theirs. They're deferred maintenance. They aren't updated, things like that, because we're comparing apples to apples. So we want to know the before, which is your purchase price, and we want to know the after of what can we sell it for, right? So again, these are just numbers that we're picking out. So when we average them together, right? If we average the purchase price comps and then the ARV comps, we're going to put our purchase price at $223,000. That's what we're going to offer, right? We're going to offer right in the middle. And then we're going to cautiously say the ARV can be about 445 when we're done. This is saying we now have a gap, right? We now have a budget in between that we need to fit of repairing these homes. So now we're going to get into what rehab looks like. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? Maybe. For some reason, I can't see the chat. That stinks. There it is. Okay. Perfect. So, rehab. What are we looking at when we say we need to rehab a property? When I walk up to a property, I'm walking up to it different than I would if I was a retail buyer. As a licensed broker, I can tell you I've done both. Retail buyers are not as, worried about going into the lesser homes. They don't want that. They want turnkey for the most part. So they're not going into some of the stuff that we are. But when we go in, there are things that we look at specifically as investors. We want to know the roof on the outside, if there's any wood rot that would lead us to like needing pest control, termites, things like that. You can still have termites on block too, just so you guys know. They can get inside the house and like eat the window frames. So just because you have block doesn't mean that you are completely safe from termites. Landscaping. What do I need to do to bring curb appeal back to this home? Do we need to repaint the home? Are there any damages? Are the windows damaged? Do I need to replace any windows? And cleaning. You would be surprised what a really good pressure washing will do to a home. Okay. Like it can make it look so fresh and brand new. And then another coat of paint. It's great. So when you go inside, we're going to look at a couple things. The kitchen and the bathrooms. These are the two most expensive things to replace in a home. A kitchen, if you have to do all new counters and cabinets, it can be so pricey, and appliances. Bathrooms, depending on the bathroom, you're looking at a minimum of $3,000 per bathroom, and that can hurt. Plumbing. When you have homes from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, are you checking to make sure that you don't have cast iron pipes? If you're looking at a home from the 80s to the early 90s, do you have what's called polybutylene pipes. These are recalled pipes that got too brittle and would bust open. So they're not covered by insurance. So you have to get your house replumbed. You have to get new plumbing put in through the house, and your plumber is not going to drywall all the holes he made. Okay. Heads up. You don't want them doing drywall. That's not their specialty. Electrical. You have knob and tube wiring in some of these really old houses, completely out of date, and you'll need to rewire the home. If you have aluminum wiring or cloth wrapped wiring, you will not be covered by insurance. You will need to redo the whole house. Electric panels, there are recalls on certain electric panels that you need to know about. Zinsco, Gen Pacific, those are the two big ones that you want to look out for, because you'll have to replace the whole panel. Plumbing, copper plumbing, always be careful. They get pinholes very easily. Flooring. Do you want to go with a tile? Do you want to go with a vinyl? Do you want to go with a carpet? All different price ranges, right? Each one needs a new level of prep. If you are going for the cheap route, carpet. Carpet's the cheapest. It's also the least wanted. So if you're just like, I'll put carpets in the bedrooms, great, good for you. But just know your buyer might not like that. It's a gamble. Vinyl plank, you have your cheap stuff, and then you have your luxury vinyl, which is waterproof. And I say waterproof because they are water repelling, but if you leave water on them, it will break them down. So the Fed Pacific boxes, yes, that's it. So you have all that stuff, and you say, okay, we're looking at the quality. I am not putting marble in a starter home. Doesn't make sense, right? You put marble in a luxury home because it deserves the luxury type. If you're in Pine Hills, you're not putting in terrazzo floors, right? You might uncover terrazzo floors and redo them, but you're not putting them in. You're going to put on some vinyl. You're going to put on, whatever. Just remember, vinyl is not truly ever waterproof. Do not put it in your bathrooms. It will go bad quick. Also, the glue that they use to make some of these vinyls, roaches love. So just remember that. Hardwood will warp down here if you're not careful. So another good one. Tile is always a good thing for like a rental because it's easy to clean up and stuff. But buy extra tile when you do it, because tile is done by what's called a dye lot. And when you do one set, it might not match 3 sets from now. So buy extra when you can, like when you put it in. So if you need to replace anything, it matches. Paint, you can find some really good painters, and some of them are pretty inexpensive. Just make sure you're going in and checking their work. AC units can be expensive. The one we just put in for less than 1,000 square feet was $5,500. And that's after we negotiated $1,000. And then the water heater is another big one. We've seen problems with water heaters not being up to code. There is certain codes where you need to have a pan under the water heater. This is because if it explodes, you don't want it to go everywhere. You want it to try and be as contained as possible. Did you know that you're supposed to empty out your water tank once a year because of all the filament at the bottom? There's a lesson for you. So we came across one last week that we were told, oh, it's up to code, it's up to code. It was sitting on a stack of tiles. It was not up to code in the least bit. You cannot have a water heater teetering on tiles. I don't understand, but that's what you're going to run into. Damages and hazards. You've got mold, you've got just all these different things that you can come across. Roof leaks, holes in the wall. You're going to want to make sure that you're checking for everything. Okay, these kind of touched upon these before. These are common issues that you need to look for when you're going into these homes. Chinese drywall was the latest issue that we had in the new construction boom around the 2008 in Florida specifically, mostly South Florida. And that drywall would literally bubble around outlets because there was a shortage of drywall in Florida. And when they were building, they were like, we'll just go buy the stuff from China. Well, the stuff from China wasn't tested correctly, and it got put into our homes. And if you have bubbling around your electric sockets, more than likely you have Chinese drywall. From 2002 to 2010, there was a big problem. So if you're a realtor, there's actually a disclosure in the disclosures saying that you can test for Chinese drywall. It's about $500 for the test. It's not that big of a deal if you're taking the walls out, but if you're leaving them in and you see those issues, there's a big problem. Polybutylene pipes, again, you cannot get insurance with that. Excuse me, cast iron pipes, you're not going to see them underneath the drains. You have to like know that it's there, number one, or you have to look in the shower drains, sink drains, like at the ground, not anything that will come from the ground. It's all under the ground. So under your slabs and things like that. Recalled electric panels, cloth or aluminum wiring, lead-based paint. Any home before 1978 has to have a disclosure about lead-based paint. Whether they know it's there or not, you still have to sign off on it. Asbestos is something that they used in everything in like the 50s. So it was in flooring, it was in electric, it was in insulation. Like if the home hasn't been remodeled since like the 50s, there's a good chance there's something asbestos in there, and you need to hire someone specific to come in and remove it. And that can be pricey. Frank is someone who is asbestos approved, so he can help you with telling you exactly what it is. And I know he's in here. So renovations that we're going to talk about. These renovations that we're doing inside a home, we're going to make sure that we're matching what we need to. I'm not going to go outside of and try and make my house the most beautiful on the block. There's no point if I'm flipping it. You want it to be better, but not overly better. If everyone in the neighborhood is using, the Formica countertops, you're not going to put quartz in, right? Because you're not going to recapture what you put out. So when it comes to renovations, you have your high-end renovations. These are with the gold, the marble, those kinds of things. When you think luxury, that's what it is. Your mid-range is your basic everyday home that they're building within like the new builders. So they're family homes, they're bigger, and you can probably get away with putting the quartz and stuff in those because that's almost standard now. So Formica is out in the mid-range and the high range. Don't even try it. You will be laughed at, and your house will sit. Low-end remodels we have with the minor updates that we need to do, typically found in your starter homes. and we just can make them a little bit better, but you don't have to go all out. You know what I mean? All right, this one's super important. I want you guys to please screenshot this one. And this is going to be a general guide for rehab purposes. We want to know what it's going to cost me about. This changes from where you live to the time of year, but this is average in America right now. So we have painting at $4 a square foot. Flooring is about $6 a square foot for luxury vinyl plank, including installation. Tile is about $6 a square foot when you have just tile. That's not including any of the prep. Carpet is about $4 a square foot. Granite is about $45 a square foot, and that's an A grade level, which is kind of your basic granites. We spent $54 on quartz, $54 a square foot on quartz on our flip. And if I went back and did it again, even though the countertops were beautiful, I would not spend that much money back on them. I would put granite in. AC unit for a 2.5 ton. Again, this is from my flip. It cost me $5,900. A water heater for an electric one is about $1,750 with install. If you have gas, it's a little bit more because the plumber has to come in and do the gas line. If you have gas in your home or you are putting gas in, the only person that can put it in for you is a licensed plumber. You cannot do it yourself, okay? Don't mess with gas. You will blow yourself up. Don't do it. Just call a professional. So again, bathrooms. When we're looking at redoing a full gut job on a bathroom and you have to put in a shower tub combo, you're going to put some, some stonework in there, some tile work to be the background of it. You're going to put in a vanity, a toilet, the mirror light, all that. You're looking at about $7,500 from a full gut. That is retail, okay? I can get it a lot lower, but just understand that if you go to someone that is only retail minded when it comes to renovations, they're going to charge you top dollar, right? So we want someone that we're going to bring business back to, and we're going to bring his price down because we're bringing him volume. Cabinets are so expensive. I don't understand why, but they are. Between making sure that they are completely put in correctly and, making sure they're level and everything like that, it's going to cost you a minimum of $10,000 for a small kitchen. That's for the nice cabinets, wood cabinets. Yes, you can get cheaper. I'm sure you can. IKEA was going to run me about $7,500. So shop around. Again, these are averages. Your appliances, if you're putting on a full appliance package, it's going to be about $3,000. You can get some sales. They have like the Labor Day sales and the Memorial Day sale, President's Day. Everybody gets a sale price, okay? No, Buster, stop. And then, come here, Buster. Buster, come over here. Sorry. It's the joy of having multiple dogs. So we have the roofing. You have all different kinds of roofing that you need to do. And you can have a flat roof. You can have a regular shingle roof. You can have a metal roof. There's tons of types of roofing. So when you say $6 to $8 a square foot, that's about accurate. Make sure that you pull a permit on your roof. Have your roofer pull a permit, because if not, the insurance company is not going to allow you to get insurance. They can't trust whoever put it in, and they don't know. It's not, certified by the city or the county. roofs that are anywhere from 10 to 15 years and older are not getting insurance in Florida right now because of all the insurance companies that are leaving, the hikes, and what they're requiring. People are getting dropped or their insurance is going sky high. We had a guy in foreclosure because he couldn't afford to put a new roof on his house. So the house went into foreclosure. He could pay the bill, but he couldn't get a roof on it because it was going to cost him like 10 grand and he didn't have it. So they foreclosed on him because he didn't stick with what the mortgage company said when they said you need to make sure that you are that you have a new roof on. You have to make sure that you're keeping up with your insurance payments or the mortgage company will foreclose on you. Read your documents. Windows are about 500 to 800 each installed. Could be less if they're smaller, but this is a standard window. Okay, we are going to do a generalization here, okay? Here's what our example house is going to be. We're going to say it's a 1,750 square foot home. We're going to need to do some flooring. We need to do some paint. We need a new roof, 2 bathrooms. We need countertops. And the cabinets were in good condition in this one. So we only needed cabinet or countertops. This is basically what you might do if you have to go into a really simple renovation, right? It doesn't look simple, but it is. When you are doing your rehab, always allow a 10% overage for other. So if I'm adding up all my numbers, my subtotal is like 45,000. So 10% of that is 4,500. Almost always my renovation budget has almost doubled because of what you can't see behind the walls, right? That can kill your deal. So always make sure that that 10% might actually be like closer to 50. So keep that in mind because it does happen. Some of them we were able to stay within $1,000 or two of our renovation budget, but if you're doing a full flip, just expect that you're not going to be on budget. So build that into your costs. So right now, our rehab is sitting that we would need a total renovation that is going to be almost 50,000, 49,975. Things that we need to consider when we're looking at our rehab. We need to know if we need any permits, if we need bidding. If you didn't get your GC in before you closed, I don't know why you wouldn't, but if you didn't, you might have a longer project. Permits, we cannot get inspections scheduled for at least a week out in Sanford right now, at least a minimum. And that's just to check it. For them to do the paperwork is a whole nother week. And that's pretty fast compared to like Volusia County right now. Volusia County is still far behind, especially in Daytona Beach area because of all the new homes that have had to be rebuilt from hurricanes. They are behind in permits. So again, make sure you're figuring out what permits and what needs to be done beforehand. Your rehab to construction. If you're doing a cosmetic, you could be done in 2 weeks. But if it's a full renovation, depending on the size of the house, you could be 4 months plus, right? A 5,000 square foot mansion is going to take probably 6 months to fully redo. A listing for sale. So once you're done with your project and you list it, you still have time that you need to account for in your rehab budget for paying the bills while it's still sitting, paying the mortgage, paying the hard money lender, paying the water, the electric. All that stuff still needs to be required. A good agent can get your home at least under contract within 2 weeks right now. They're closing in about 30 to 45 days. So just remember that. That's another holding cost. And then closing. Once we get our contract to close, 30 to 45 days. Okay, this one says 60. But 30 to 45 is what we're seeing. And this is for retail again. But you might go through things where we got every person that walked through our flip put an offer in on our house, right? 3 of the 4 did not ever make an escrow payment. They'd never put their deposit down. So we had to relist it. Do you know how frustrating that is? You're like, oh my God, like they're at or above asking price. And then they're like, oh, just kidding. I don't want it. As an agent, it's rough. So as a seller, you're going to be pretty mad. Just understand that it does happen, but you got to just roll with the punches. All right. So for our example home, again, we're going to say it's going to take 4 weeks to renovate. And then I don't think I put 2 months to list, close, sell. Pretty standard. So now we're going to talk about what a holding cost is. I'm giving you all these pieces because we're going to put the puzzle together really quickly, right? So holding cost is going to include your mortgage, your hard money lender, payment, anything that you're paying to keep the home. Interest, you're still going to pay interest for the most part on most of these. Taxes, you're going to need to equate for some prorated taxes while you own the property. The insurance, you're going to have a special contracting insurance. I think ours was $700 for 4 months. And that was through like Tapco, which is one of the bigger ones. Utilities, water's running about $50 a month. Electric during the summer is about $150, $200. Trash, pests, landscaping, HOA fees. These are all things that you might not be able to take care of yourself, right? If you're not on site all the time, you don't want to go out every week to take the trash out. You don't want to go spray for bugs every week. You don't want to go do the landscaping every week. So you hire people to do that. So in this example, I'm going to say that our mortgage on this property that we're flipping is $1,100. The interest is $100. Taxes, $170. Insurance, $200. Utilities, $350. And then the trash, pest, landscaping, HOA, $150. So for a total of $2,070 a month. This is going to be your holding costs. Let's see. Just making sure I didn't go in fix. The page is still on inside the home. Can you guys see the holding costs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Am I going too fast?
No, you're doing great.
Great. Okay. So we have acquisitions and dispositions. Remember what we said? Acquisitions are bringing the homes in. Dispositions are selling the deals, sending it out. What is your end strategy? That's your disposition. So they just call it different things. Woo. Okay. Acquisitions to buy a property. These are your closing costs when you are buying a property. These numbers need to be saved for at the end. You can use them in your, you have to take them out of your profit to repay whoever it is that took these hits. So it's going to be about 1 to 3% of the purchase price. That means that when we're looking at these deals that say, okay, $37,000 for entry fee and plus closing costs, and you're like, well, crap, what are closing costs going to be? 1 to 3%. Typically on a cash deal or our seller finance or sub 2, it's about 2%, 2 to 1. And you multiply the purchase price of the property by the 1 to 3%, and that will tell you how much your closing costs are going to be. So if we're breaking it down, we have an inspection cost, $350 to $500. So that's a retail thing, because we all know in creative, we may not get an inspector to get in there. We may not have an inspection period, and that's okay. We're saving ourselves money on the front end, but it might not save us on the back end. You know what I mean? Like, if we're not well versed enough, we may screw it up. Your title search, I put 1,500. That's the highest I've seen it. My typical is about 1,000, 650 to 1,000. So this is ensuring that there is a clean title, no claims, liens, or anything else on the property. Anyone that's not familiar with what title insurance is, it means that if, say, I have a long lost sister and I die, that she cannot come back after I die and the property's been sold. She cannot come back and say, that property is mine and I'm taking it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Title insurance makes it so they know exactly where title is coming from, who it's coming from, and who it's going to. They do all the searches to make sure that if you were in probate, that you are fully out of probate, and it says the heirs of who it's going to go to. Title insurance is so important because you don't want someone coming back to claim the land that you just spent $1 million on, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. So never skip it. Never, 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 never. It's about as important as a retail home inspection. Very important. I say retail because most retail people don't know what they're looking for. It's their first home or their second home, and they're not very handy. They just know that the house is pretty and it feels good and they love it. We go in with different eyes, so we know what to look for, so we may not need an inspection. You are charged county recording fees. That means when it's put into the property appraiser, we have to pay someone to put that information in. It's about $100. These costs are all taken off at closing. They're all put together at closing on a settlement statement. Transfer taxes. These are doc stamps and intangible tax stamps if you have a mortgage. I put everything that's on there exactly how it is. Doc stamps are 35 cents per $100 of the purchase price. But tangible tax is 2.2% of the mortgage that you take out. If you don't have a mortgage, you don't have to pay the intangible taxes. If you want to learn more about how it's taxed, kind of write these things down, go Google it. I am not a tax attorney. I am not a lawyer. I'm not going to give you the legal spiel on how you should do your own. Miscellaneous fees, things like document preparation, notary, things like that can be like these extra costs that they put a buffer in for. When you are purchasing a house, the cost for acquisition is not as high, but you're definitely going to see a settlement statement before you close to know exactly what you're paying. And you can ask them for that up front. And then we have your disposition side. It is much more money to dispose a property than it is to acquire one. So make friends with a selling agent that will list your property for a non-retail price. There's those of us out there that will, like for other investors, will put the listing up for 1.5%. I'm not telling you that's typical. I'm just saying there's those of us out there that do it. So you'll probably have to pay your buyer's agent a commission of about 3%. It can be more, it can be less. Just set all those fees in the beginning when you're talking to your agent. Document stamps on the deed, like we said, is calculated. It's just another government stamp for you, another tax for you. 70 cents per $100. If you took the real estate course, these numbers were embedded into you and then you never used them again. So you're welcome. I'm bringing back trauma. Prorated property taxes. So they're paid in arrears. So you will own for the days that you own it. Miscellaneous fees, again, doc stamp, the doc preparations and the notaries and things like that. Okay, here we go. Now that we've gone through all the little pieces, here are what we put down. So you guys can screenshot this. And I'm going to say, okay, we set our purchase price for $223,000. We're going to say it took us about 2% for closing costs. So $4,460. When we did our renovation costs, it was $49,975. We said that it was going to take about 3 months to renovate, sell, et cetera. So our holding costs are going to be $6,210. Our selling price, we said was going to be $445. And then we're going to say it was about 7% for our selling costs, which is $31,150. Ouch, that's a huge difference, right? So your acquisitions were $4,000, your dispositions were $31,000. So the total cost of your project, with your holding cost, your rehab cost, your acquisition cost, and your selling cost was $91,000 and $91,795. Then we're going to add in our purchase price, which put us in at a total of $314,795. Okay. Did anyone have any questions on this one? Feel free to ask, you guys. There's no stupid questions, and I know that I can talk really fast. So don't be afraid to ask. Okay. So if we sold this property for $445,000 and our total all in was $310,295. Our profit was $134,705. Who wouldn't love a paycheck like that for 3 months of work? You don't have to work the rest of the month. The rest of the year, one. So now you've seen how we got to our underwriting. We just did it. That's it. That's our underwriting. We want to know purchase, holding, acquisition, disposition, profit. As of 2022, investment companies own about 1/4 of all single-family homes. Last year, investors' purchases accounted for 22% of American homes sold. That's a lot. Investing companies own 1/4 of single families. 1/4. Like, that's insane. So, who has a mortgage? Over 38% of owner-occupied housing units are owned free and clear. For homeowners under the age of 65, the paid-off homes is 26.4%. So we still have a good chunk of people that have no mortgage that we want to go and talk with. Yeah, we can sub to the mortgage people, but there's still a good chunk of people that have bought their homes cash and they're willing to do seller finance, which brings down all of our costs. So again, seller financing. The ideal seller is someone that owns their home outright. They don't need the lump sum up front. They might want to make it an investment for their life or for their children, just depending on the situation per person. So when we're talking about terms, we're talking about your purchase price, down payment, interest rate, your term length, and balloon payoff. So these are your 5 main items that you always want to have in front of you. I do what's called a letter of intent. I have these things broken down plain as day for the seller, and I send that to their agent. I said, if we can agree to the terms, I will create the offer. It takes me a fraction of the time to do an LOI than it does a contract, right? But this is also making it so they're not as confused. They're seeing the numbers. I'm a visual person. Show me the numbers. Show me how this is going to work. Show me what I'm going to make as the bank. So most of them are like, oh, it's going to be a problem. They don't realize they're going to make $300,000 by the end of their loan because they're not being presented correctly by the agents. So if you make it plain and simple to the point, I usually send, it's called the mortgage calculator. I go in and I do a breakdown and I show them, this is your monthly payment that you'll receive. This is how much interest we're paying. By the end of the loan, this is how much interest you'll make over the purchase price. I mean, that when they see hundreds of thousands that they will make on some of them, they're like, hell yeah, let's do this. Awesome. But they want to see the numbers. Hearing it doesn't make sense. So you got to show them. Okay, so this is what your terms will look like on this specific example I'm giving you. So we're going to use that 445 number again. Our down payment is going to be $25,000. We're going to offer them 4% interest on a 40-year term. Most people want 30, which is fine, but every time you shrink the term years, the monthly payment goes up. The more you stretch them out, the lower the payment's going to be. Just like with interest. The lower the payment on interest, the lower the payment. So if you can get a 50-year term out of someone, get it. Because it doesn't mean you have to pay for 50 years, okay? That's where our balloon comes in. When someone says, do you have a balloon? Balloons are for clowns, but we sometimes need them. So they say, okay, I don't want to be paid off in 50 years. I'm like 60 years old. I'm not even going to be here for the payoff. So I want it done in 10 years. Okay, no problem. I'm still going to set my term length of 40 years, but my balloon is going to be in 10. So my payment is for the 40 years, but in 10 years, I need to pay the principal off. So whatever's remaining on the loan with them, not including interest, but the principal is what I pay them in 10 years. How do I pay them? I pay them with refinancing the property into my name and pulling out equity. Well, it would already be in your name, but you could refinance it into a traditional bank loan, or you could pay it off before then. Say you're running an Airbnb and somehow you've made enough to pay it all off in full. You pay it all off in 10 years. That didn't increase or decrease your term length. It just said in 10 years, that balloon is going to pop. That's the be all end all date. 10 years, balloon, pop, pay me. Does that make sense? Great. So with all these things, I'm not going to set a balloon on this one, but our monthly payment is going to be $1,755.34. So this is what I say when I show them. Your seller benefits. Here's what you can do. You're going to make $422,000 earned in interest, just interest, not including the purchase price. That's just interest on the life of the loan. Total paid to seller, including the purchase price and the interest, he's making $842,000. Meanwhile, the purchase price was only $445,000. But because he's the bank, he makes a lot more money, right? All he had to do was be patient. Now that's over 40 years because we didn't do a balloon. So again, this installment sale allows you to realize the gain over several years instead of paying capital gains taxes in the first year. So you pay taxes as an income, and then when you have, say they bought the house within the last year, right? If they were to sell it now, they'll pay really high capital gains taxes. Anything 2 years or under, you're getting hit with a capital gains tax. So if they haven't owned the home for 2 years, remind them that they are facing a huge capital gains tax when they sell. Your purchase price can be higher than the traditional sale due to the savings to the buyer. I'm not paying mortgage fees. I'm not paying all these crazy things. So my purchase price, I can get them what they wanted as long as my other terms match for what I need, right? So if I need to stay at the 1700, great, we can give him his total. If he wants to be higher, then we just have to finagle how it works out to make sure it works out for everybody. So that's where structuring comes in. If you're not familiar or comfortable, find someone like myself or even Ivan who structure all the time. And we can take all these little pieces. It's like a beautiful mind on a board, I swear. We take all the little pieces and we make them work, right? So if you're overwhelmed, have one of us jump in and help you, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you guys. But we take these little pieces and we make them work for what you need them to work for, right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we can always try. All right. I know that you guys are all very familiar with what subject to is. Like I said, when I did this, we made it for a lot of new people. So what I do, and Pace has talked about this a couple times, is make a clone of yourself, right? You hear the same things over, and you're like, you have to repeat these things over and over and over. So why not make a video that allows you to send it out and you don't have to repeat yourself? So with every subject to or seller finance offer that I throw out, I send this 2-minute YouTube clip of a video that I made. The voice is cringy. I'm super sorry, but it was my first one, but I've sent it out to so many people that it works, right? Because now I'm giving them a visual of how it works. And I'm going to see, I hope this plays with sound. Let me know if it doesn't.
Are you selling your house? Well, I'm here to buy it. I'm excited to share my offer with you. Let me walk you through the process and answer any questions you may have. The first thing that we need to know is if you have a mortgage or if you own the property free and clear. If you own your home outright, we can meet through the bank with seller finance. Together we set the terms, and you get paid monthly. Terms include the purchase price, the interest rate, the term length, for example, 30 years. But don't worry, it doesn't have to go all 30 years. You can set a term length, which we call a balloon. I have a mortgage. That's okay. We can take over the payment and pay your closing costs for you. We make the payments for you. That's right, we do it for you. It's called subject to, which means we're taking over your loan, subject to the terms that you've already created with the bank. What if my house is worth more than I owe on the balance of my mortgage? That's okay. Let us show you how this works by adding seller financing. Here's an example I like to use. The purchase price is $400,000, but your mortgage balance is $250,000. That means you have a remaining balance of $150,000. So just like on seller finance, we negotiate the terms on that remaining $150,000. The remaining balance of $150,000 would have the terms of 40 years, 3% interest, and 10% down payment. This means the monthly payment to the seller is $500. The interest earned over the lifetime of the loan is over $100,000. Here's the questions to make now. Who pays the mortgage payment? We do. We use a loan servicing company to make the payments on time. You're a third-party company that makes the payment on our behalf. This also shows on your credit and may help increase your score. What happens if a payment gets missed due to alien abduction or other circumstances? Don't worry, the home gets deeded back to you. It's called deed in lieu of foreclosure, and you get to keep all of the money that's been paid to you and towards the mortgage. You don't have to pay it back. When does the mortgage get out of my name? The home can be refinanced or sold down the road. You get paid the remaining balance of the agreed upon amount at the time of the closing. Will having a mortgage affect my DTI, the debt to income ratio, when going for a new loan? You will be able to have your loan officer get a confirmation of payment from the loan servicing company. This will show record of us paying versus you paying. That will show the liability is removed from you and placed on us, therefore freeing up your debt to income ratio.
All right. So super quick, super easy, gets people to go, well, how would this work for me? Show me how it will work. Come on. Okay. So when people say, who would ever want this type of financing, like the creative? Think about the people that overpaid their appraisal by $50,000 and now they're underwater. Okay, so now they have to move. Screwed. It is what it is. They can't go to the closing table and not bring a check with them. They just can't. So the easiest way to help around that is to do the sub 2 like we talk about. So again, structuring, that's where I come in and I can help look at mortgage statements and insurance and things like that to help you out. Unicorn agents, that's us. I have a couple of my agents on here now. They are learning how to do creative finance through our mentorship. So we want to make sure that people understand that there's those of us out there that love doing this stuff, and we will specifically work with investors to get these things done. So this is actually one of our other classes that I put on, as do I cash flow or no? And this is for your rentals. These are your short-term, mid-term, long-term rentals. I don't know if that QR code still works, so don't quote me on that. But I'm thinking of putting on another one of these for you guys. And hopefully being able to help you with the underwriting in more than just single family. Did anyone have any questions or want to talk about any deals that they have that they might need help with? QR code works. Awesome. Love that. So nobody had any questions at all? What loan servicing company? I use Westar. That's who I use on my TC deals as well. I usually set those up. There's a lot of like paperwork when you're a TC, but once you have it all, it's just a matter of like giving it out to everyone and having it filled out. But they are very specific with wet signatures and digital signatures. Like on the closing packets, when you have a notarization, you cannot get a photocopy of those. You need to get a wet copy. So you have to submit everything at title before closing to go in with what's called the closing package. So Most of them are going to need a notary at that point, which is why we put them in there, because closing packets need to be done by someone who can notarize and sign off on you being you and buying the homes.